Denver Broncos Mile High View. No commercials, no bullshit. It seems that sports talk radio is just now figuring out that Gary Kubiak is really acting in the role of head coach, but let's face it, that's really not true. Again, it's just shielding Elway. Elway, working in tandem. Excuse me. Pardon me. Elway working in tandem with Gary Kubiak is your head coaching. And they're just now finally figuring out that they're going to be getting another puppet coach to come in. And again, this brings us to the possible hiring that won't happen of Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Bears, has publicly said that he hasn't taken any calls, doesn't plan on to, so I don't think there's any coaching there's no head coaching jobs out there that appeal to him. I mean, he's close to the situation in Green Bay. If that was to be a possibility, I mean, he's already turned that down. Obviously, Denver would be low on the list. So, because of the meddling situation that's finally Sports Talk Radio is finally getting around to. Anyway, this brings us to Mike Munchak. Or Mike Munchak. This brings us to Munchak. Munchak is, according to sources in Steeltown and all the people that are close to that situation, is fed up with all the drama that's going on. Yeah, Mike Munchak. So anyway, the Broncos, as bad as the situation is in Denver, is much more appealing than what's going on in Steeltown, and with all the drama going on there. They do have ownership, though, over there, but, obviously they're going to have to take care of their princesses, namely Ben Roethlisberger, Brown, and some of the others, the coaching out there, all the mess that they've all created. And this is again, I did a video on quarterback obsessing. And, I mean, it was 4 years ago I said Roethlisberger should probably be replaced, but people obsess. And, it's hard for them to get rid of, their heroes. But this is a what can you do for me now league. And I'm kind of that's the way I am as a fan. I should have had this show a long time ago because I was calling for Shanahan's head after the AFC lost to Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh. And I'm always, the one out in the cold here. Sports Talk Radio still can't get their mind around the Elway situation, soloing it. They don't really, I don't think they even have an appreciation for what Pat Bowlen really brought to the team. And they don't dare speak negatively with Elway, considering that they've got to show up at Dove Valley, and, I don't have to do that. I have no intention to go to Dove Valley. I don't need to. But anyway, so Munchak for the Denver Broncos, and they're talking about Pagano, being the DC, and that's kind of what I talked about before. Although I wasn't clear on the Steelers situation at the time. I didn't think that the Denver Broncos would be appealing to him, but there's Arizona's out there. The problem for Arizona is that you fired your head coach with only 1 year under your belt. It isn't very appealing to the next guy coming in. So it's going to be, Arizona's going to be probably standoffish for any head coach that would be coming in, unless Arizona really got serious and started, making phone calls and saying that, we're going to give, the Ravens offensive coordinator a legitimate shot, or, New Orleans or whatever, something like that. Something out of the box. But over in Arizona, it doesn't seem to be a good fit for any really head coach out there. It's it's like, well, am I going to get fired after 1 year? And Josh Rosen, everybody says, they got a quarterback god, when in the 2018 draft, but it's not enough to bring in a good coach. And I try to explain that to quarterback obsessed fans, that they don't get it. Quite frankly, I had commented on the message board about Josh Rosen that he's in a really bad situation in Arizona, and he will probably be drummed out of the league because of it. Not any fault of his own, but it's going to probably be a mess over in Arizona for a while, and eventually he'll get the blame for that mess because somebody's going to say, hey, I didn't draft that guy. Don't put it on me. And that's what happens. But if you took Josh Rosen and if New England moved up and got him, and he had 2 years under Belichick's tutelage, when Brady does his farewell ticker tape parade out of Boston, I don't think, and if Belichick's still the coach at that point, I don't think much changes in New England because they have such a good system, such a good scouting department. I think that's a guy you could plug and play, just like they do every other player personnel that they get. But anyway, Mike Munchak, it's looking like that's going to be the deal. Pagano would want to come in as DC. Then he doesn't have the head coaching. I mean, that would be great for Pagano because he's a native I don't know if he's a native, but he lives in Colorado, in Boulder area. And he would, hey, I don't have to take responsibility as a head coach, but I can get back into the thick of things. So that would be a wonderful deal. I could see Pagano, taking that job. That'd be easy. And Mike Munchak, what makes him work in Denver is that his system of zone blocking is right up Gary Kubiak's type of system. I mean, they're in tandem together. I did a video on all the fans out there thinking that the Denver Bronco fans out there thinking that the offensive line was wonderful, when in reality it was horrible. This hire would put an exclamation point on the point I was making. They need offensive line help. It's a disaster. It's not good. But they were one of the best rushing. They were until they met one of the worst teams in the league, period, and stopping the run. They were figured out. Now, whether the coaches, again, maybe the coaches they did have, I'll go with you on this one. Maybe the coaches did the best they could with what they got. But they have a long way to go with the offensive line. And I want to talk about offensive lines just really quick, the whole offensive line concept. Fans get into this weird, funky idea that, quarterback's got to go through all these reads. And I'm like, if you have and this is Mike McCoy and his nonsense, idiotic game plan. If your entire playbook is based on going through all kinds of reads, you're an idiot. You're a friggin' moron. Today's NFL, it's got to be quick reads, because offensive lines just don't have, 6 seconds to give you to go through every read. You have to do the majority of your playbook has to be quick reads for passing, because look at New England. Look at a lot of the better teams. They get rid of the ball quick. Although right now Mahomes, they have a lot of play action and option stuff with him, and I'm just interested because there's going to come a time where they're going to speed up his response time. And I didn't mean to get into Mahomes, but one of the things I've seen on him on the negative side is that he tends to take some risks that he's been really lucky that they haven't backfired on him. But he's got great player personnel around him to make up for some of that. But anyway, so what you get with the zone blocking system with Mike Munchak is obviously the run, and you can also do some A-gap, run gap type stuff with it too now. They've hibernized zone blocking, and I read an article on Mike Munchak and how he's kind of taken, it's like zone blocking 2.0. So, but I'd like to do a video on Case Keenum, because it's not so much on Case Keenum, but it's the mistakes that was made putting the game plan around him or somebody like him. If this isn't, like I said, so much a Case Keenum, but a systems will be a systems video. But I'm put Case Keenum because that's who who happened to be quarterback at the time in a later video. But anyway, you have the zone blocking system, which dovetails in with what Gary Kubiak does. So this is definitely most likely going to be your Denver Broncos coaching staff of next year, which, I'll give him this. Because of the situation in Denver, that's probably about as good as it gets. I know there's going to be the quarterback obsessing that's going to be going on, and it's just a weird situation. And even D-Mac, the idiot, on Sports Talk Radio gets it, that everything they're doing now may not even be, it may be all for naught, but I was right about the offensive line needing help, and obviously Mike Munchak would definitely help in that regard. But back to Pagano, is that the DC out of the Bears country? It's not going to happen. Obviously, that would be Elway's number one choice, but it looks like you're probably most likely going to get Mike Munchak. I think they're just going to have this last talk with that Bears DC, and once that's been turned down by the DC out there, I think then you're going to hear about the hiring of Mike Munchak. So that's it.